Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me? I guess some of you are going to have to unmask yourself so I can see if one of you can hear me.
I can hear you.
Perfect. All right. This is kind of a fun project. I've been doing projects lately that are brain busters. So this is kind of a welcome project because this is going to be a fun project. So I'm going to go over some of the things that were in your kit. So I'm going to swing the camera around. And so what we're doing today is we are doing the tic-tac-toe cinch set. This is really a cute project. We've got all these little tic-tac-toe pieces. We've got a nice little bag to keep them in. So you're always looking for something to pull out to keep kids busy for a while. This is a good project to do it with. So in your kit, if you got your kit from A1, you're going to have your stabilizers, which is one piece of sticky tearaway. Oh, there we go. One piece of wash away. These are for the 5x7 hoop. That's what we'll be using today. And then you have a piece of Mylar that sticks to everything except what you need it to stick to, I guess. But this is what's going to make our little sparkly middle part of our playing pieces. And then you have a piece of netting or tulle, whatever you choose to call it. It's a really fine netting. It's not, it's more like what I used to call bridal tulle. It's very fine. It's very, and this is going to keep our freestanding lace pieces with the Mylar in the middle from falling apart when we rinse them. So the other thing that I am bringing along is a makeup sponge. So sometimes if I'm too lazy to actually soak the wash off stabilizer right away and I want to just finish the project and see what it looks like or go forward, I will use this little makeup sponge and I dip it into water. And then after I trim, I go around the edges of the pieces so I can get all of the leftover stabilizer. I can get all of it off. So I'm going to be using this today. I'm going to trim and use this. If you want to soak yours off right away, that's fine. I opened a new packet this morning, or your packet comes with 2 little tic-tac-toe bags. So you can set one aside. We're only going to need one. And that's it for supplies, I think, for hard supplies. Thread, you're going to need 4 colors. You're going to need a peach, an orange, a pink, and a blue-gray. This is the closest I could come. And then you're going to need a matching bobbin in the pink, the blue-gray, and the orange. For our freestanding lace, you're going to need some kind of a gel pen that you can either heat erase or water erase. And I always find that a small ruler is somewhat handy to have. Since I'm working with a small hoop, this one doesn't actually fit all the way in the hoop, but it's the smallest one I can find back here in the classroom. I usually have several different sizes of rulers because I like them to fit in the hoop and I don't like to be, like floating over the top of the hoop. All right, you're going to need your 5x7 hoop. You're going to need some scissors. So I just use a regular pair of scissors to cut away stabilizer before I actually cut the pieces out. And the reason that I do that is I just feel like it's harder to be accurate if you're dragging a bunch of stabilizer along for the ride. So normally what I'll do is cut each piece apart from the stabilizer. So I'm just working with one piece. And then I'll use my Fomore curved build, double curve, to kind of go around the pieces so I can get pretty close. And then again, I'm going to use my little makeup sponge dipped in hot water to go around the edges of the pieces so that I don't have to soak the wash away stabilizer off now. All right, so let's see where we're going to start. we are going to start with embroidering our pieces. So for that, all of these files fit in a 5x7 hoop. If you want to use a bigger hoop, that's fine, but your stabilizer, if you got your kit from us, isn't going to fit. So hopefully you have stabilizer of your own in that case. So everything is going to fit in a 5x7 hoop. So I'm going to take my single layer of wash away stabilizer, and I am going to put it in my 5x7 hoop and then cinch that hoop. We had someone leave already. What did I do? I've only been on for 10 minutes. All right. I'm gonna go ahead and swing over by the machine, and I'm taking the laptop with me so that I can see your faces. So give me a minute to move all of this around a little bit. I'm gonna change the viewing. I like the light pretty bright, the screen brightness pretty bright, but I'm gonna turn it down a little bit because I think with the new bulbs we have in here that it's been making the screen a little bit hard to see in the recording. So, all right, I'm gonna go and grab my full designs today. Unless told otherwise, I'm gonna be using white bobbin, pre-wound bobbin thread, but since we're starting with the tic-tac-toe pieces, my guess is I'm going to stitch piece placement lines and stuff first. So I'm okay with just leaving my white bobbin in there for now to do my placement lines. Normally I don't, I look ahead and I think, because I don't really want to overwork. So not that this is work, but I'll look at what the first color requires. And so if that's you, then the first color we're going to sew with is going to be the hot pink. So if you want to put hot pink in now, that's fine. I'm on a mission this week. I'm on a mission this week to use up all the pre-wound all the bobbins that we wound in colors that we needed to use for some sort of a class and then got tossed in the box. So it's my goal today to just use other bobbins. So they may not be a perfect match, but they're probably going to be way close enough. So, but maybe not enough to do everything with, but I know I'm going to be using pink first. So I'm going to go ahead and thread up with my pink thread. I have a 7511 anti-glue needle end. You know, the other thing I really love keeping on hand by my sewing machine is my husband used to work in surgery in a hospital. And they used to have these little adhesive tape remover pads that they would use on the patients to get the Band-Aids and stuff off of them so that they didn't pull their skin off with it. And they're you can buy them in like a little packet that's the same size as like a eyeglass cleaner. I get them in a box of 100 from Amazon. They're wonderful to keep right like near your machine because you can just, if your needle gets gummy at all when you're using sticky stabilizer, you can just wipe it off with that and then keep sewing. So it's kind of a nice thing. All right, I'm gonna go grab my designs. So I'm on a luminaire today. For me, I'm gonna open the pocket and then open the USB and select the tic-tac-toe in my embroidery files. All right, so this is what they call a 4-part project. So the first part is going to be embroidering the game pieces. The second part is going to be sewing out a placement line for the cinch sack. The third part is sewing the grid and the tic-tac-toe. And then the last and the fourth part of the project is actually using the sewing machine side of your machine to sew the cinch sack together. So we're in this together, and we'll go through all the we'll go through all the steps together. So right now, if you're following along, I am on page 5 of the directions. I'm on the top row, part 1, embroidering the dimensional game pieces. And I am loading the tic-tac-toe X's and O's. And I'm going to select set and embroidery. All right. So the first thing is a placement line. So it's a dimensional game pieces placement line right on the stabilizer. I'm just going to go ahead and touch go here. Good morning, everyone. All right, so my next step here is I'm going to, first of all, I'm going to put the tool down and I'm going to tape it in place. And then I'm going to put the mylar over the tool and tape that in place. So here we go. All right, so here's the tool. And my piece is almost too big to tape down. So I'll be taping a little bit to the hoop here. Also, be careful when you go to tape this down. This tool can be really stretchy. And since it is going to be the base for your game pieces, if you stretch it too much, then when you wash your stabilizer out, your game pieces might be a little bit smaller than they started out. So make sure that you're not stretching the tool as you're taping it. This tape just has to hold for the tack down. All right.
We have that showing of the quilt City Hall. And one of my little books was
All right. Okay, everything's taped into place there.
flowers.
And then the next step. So tool, mylar. Was this supposed to be 2 pieces? I think I only got 1. Did you get 1 or 2 pieces? Somebody give me an answer, please. Did you get 1 piece of tool or did you get 2?
Michelle, I got 1 big piece and I cut it in half so I could do the
Okay,
2
all right,
labels.
thanks. Maybe that's why it seems so big. This is really big, but I didn't want to stretch it. So yeah, that makes sense. Thanks, Irene. So I'm making a tool sandwich with mylar. Doesn't that sound good? Well, that becomes much easier to tape.
It's just like your computer, it's old.
All right, let's get this tapped down. So if you didn't already know this, you can't even see. Is if you want to have your machine go slower for you, if you're on a brother or a baby lock, if you press and hold the start button while it starts up stitching, you can keep it at almost a very slow pace until you get to a place where you're more comfortable letting it go. As I was coming down the side here and going across the top here, I was seeing a little bit of the movement of the tool, and I wanted to keep it flat as possible. So I went ahead and just held on to the button so that it didn't go too fast and move the tool along with it. Okay. Looks like all three pieces are safely buckled up. All right, so let's see what the next step is. I'm gonna try to see if I can just tilt that down for you so you can just see the sewing process. There we go. So we are changing the bobbin thread to match the top thread. So I'm using pink. So that means out comes my pink bobbin thread.
You don't get that. Yes. Oh, I don't.
All right, here we go. Color stop number 3. It actually gives me a note that says, if the mylar and the tool pucker while stitching, they will be smoothed down by the lace fill stitch. Like, okay, in other words, it's going to be flattened to within an inch of its life with the filling. All right, so before we change to the next color, we need to turn the hoop over and clip those jump stitches. So a couple ways you can do them. A couple different types of scissors. You can use a scissor with a hook on the end. That it's nice to kind of grab jump stitches and kind of trim them, or you can use nippers, or if you're careful only, sometimes I'll just use a torch or a lighter or something. And then you can just kind of melt them, but you have to be really careful that you just only do it long enough to melt the thread and not long enough to set the project on fire, okay? So I'm just gonna clip today. Also, that only works with polyester thread, doesn't work with cotton thread. The other thing that works with things like this, there's just too many small pieces. And I guess I just kind of sometimes will look at the project itself, but you can eliminate most of the excess thread knots and stuff on the bottom by actually just pulling up your bobbin thread before you start. And then that way you just have the final clip to cut. It's about half as much thread, you know. But again, just makes it, to me, it makes a difference. How many times do I want to pull up that bobbin thread? If it's like an embroidered quilt or something like that, absolutely, I'm going to pull up the bobbin thread. If it's something like this and it's just a little project that's, you know, maybe for a little kid or something like that, I'll trim it the way I just trimmed it. All right, what are we doing next? We are changing to blue thread for the X's, it looks like. Yep. And so I'm going to get my blue thread out. I don't know, I might be playing bobbin chicken with this blue here, in which case I'll just grab another spool of half wound blue thread, but maybe I'll get lucky. I don't know though. It's a lot of stitching.
Yeah. And you know that
3 minutes worth. We'll see how far I go. Stitch the X lace fills. Okay, here we go. So what I mean by pulling up bobbin thread, if you haven't done it on your embroidery machine before, is you hang on. Let me see if I can zoom in. All right, so here's my needle up, needle down button. So what I want to do, if I want to pull up in my embroidery thread, is I want to hang on to the top thread. Hit the needle down, needle up, and then just give it a little tug, because that way I can pull the bobbin thread up at the same time. So when this one finishes, I'm gonna let this one run. The other ones I'm not gonna pull up the bobbin thread, but when this one finishes, I'm just gonna have the tie-off knot, nothing else to trim on the back, and it makes a big difference of how it finishes. But again, I kind of, you know, I like to base it on, you know, the type of project, really, more so than anything else. So we'll remember that that one is in the upper left corner, which will be the upper right corner when I turn the hoop over, so you can see the difference.
Michelle, sorry to interrupt. It's our 54th wedding
Hang on just a
anniversary.
second. I'm not sure what's going on with my phone this morning. Let me see if I can turn on. Hang on, let me see if I can. Yeah, whoever's talking, if you're talking to me, I can't hear you, so just stop talking for a moment. Okay, now go ahead and talk. Let me see if I can hear you.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. I have to go. Today is our 54th wedding anniversary, and so
Happy anniversary.
Thank you. We're going to be heading out, and thank you, and I will finish this up later. Thank you.
Okay. Have a nice anniversary, Deb.
Yep, thank you.
I only have 2 more to go. I wonder if I'm gonna make it with, or 2.5, I guess. Playing bobbin chicken here. Or maybe I'll have just enough and then I'll just be done with that. I'll have an empty bobbin. That would be great.
You guys do that? Do you wind bobbins for little projects and wind more than you need? And then you have a whole bag full of bobbins that are little colors that,
Yeah, I struggle with that. You're never quite sure exactly how much you're gonna need, you know?
you guys, I made it. I won at bobbin chicken. All right. Before I go any further, I want to turn this over so you can see the difference. Let's see here. All right. This is the one where I pulled the bobbin thread up. All I have to trim is just this. Right here. The rest of these I didn't, so I have the starting, and you can see that when the embroidery machine starts, that's when you get the biggest knot. So if it's important that you have less to trim, then you can pull the bobbin thread up before you start, and then you will only have one side to trim. And the side that you have to trim is just going to be the tie off, which is a knot and 2 pieces of thread. So sometimes I have to tell you, sometimes on freestanding lace, if I'm doing ornaments or something like that for Christmas that people are going to hang on their trees, I pull the bobbin thread up because then I don't end up with one side of the ornament that has these little knots of thread on it. Because it's much easier to not have it happen than it is to clean it up afterwards. All right, what are we doing next? I thought I took that zoom off that. Come on. No zoomies. Come on. There we go. Right. So the next step is the O's. So we are going to change the bobbin thread color. We're going to the orange. And we are stitching the O lace fills. Look at it, even had some left.
So that's what I was trying to show you before, and I didn't realize the camera was too high. But if you want to go slow, if you press and hold and keep your finger on, even your foot, if you can fit your foot up there, your finger on the start stop button, it'll keep going at a slower speed until you let it go. So when I decide I've gotten to a safe place and I'm no longer worried that my foot is going to catch a piece of fabric or something like that and pull it up, then I can just let go and it just takes itself to the normal speed. All right, I'm gonna move over to the table for the next couple of steps. First of all, I'm gonna turn it over and trim the jumps off the back. But also we're gonna be removing this line that's holding down the tool and the mylar, and then we're going to be trimming that away from around our objects here. And then we're going to do the satin stitch that finishes it off. Now be careful as we do this, we want to go pretty slow because we don't want to cut the stabilizer, just the parts, just the tool and the mylar. So I'm going to move over to the table. It's a little bit more of a flat surface. All right, so first, we got a little hiccup there. I might get rid of that. There we go. This one got up to a rough start. Okay, turn it over and I'm gonna trim my jumps for the orange. Not too bad, actually. All right. So the next step is we have to remove that little basting stitch that tacked everything down. So I'm going to grab a seam ripper to get it started. And just really carefully get in there and clip those basting stitches. Again, go slow because you don't want to cut your stabilizer because it still has a satin stitch to go around the outside of these guys. And that satin stitch has to have a stabilizer underneath it. These little tiny nippers work pretty good for this because you can't really cut a lot at any one given time. And given their curve, it's hard to cut the stabilizer as well when you're trying not to. All right. So
Michelle, does it also
Yes.
want us to remove the center of the O?
you know, I was just, you must have read my mind. I don't know. Let's see.
I did on one, and then I thought, do I need to yet?
You know, I'm not gonna, and here's why. If it doesn't specifically say to do it, that's gonna be really hard to trim inside there and not cut your stabilizer because you have to kind of poke down in there. So what I can do is I can actually trim some of that out afterwards if I want, or I can, let me try one and I'll tell you what I think. Cause we couldn't find the sample, and I remember I did the sample, we couldn't find the sample. So let me see. And then the other thing that makes it kind of wild here is the wash away stabilizer has the same kind of squared shaped texture as let me see if I can.
Well, I did it on one and then I thought,
Was
And
it
you're
just
right.
really hard, or did you end up cutting your stabilizer?
I didn't end up cutting my stabilizer. I just had to go slow because you're right. The netting is the same consistency as the
It's the stabilizer.
stabilizer.
So I'll tell you what, if you got down to the mylar and you didn't get down to the last piece of netting, you would still be okay. The netting is easy to get rid of after you wash it,
Okay.
because you can see it. And it's, so I've got this one. Let's see. I don't know if I got all the netting or not, but I did get the mylar. Let's see. I think I only have one piece. Yeah, I only got one piece of netting. It's kind of stretchy, and that's the only reason why I know. And the stabilizer is not stretchy. But I don't think, again, I think that's going to be personal choice. If you don't mind that the O has some of the mylar left behind, then don't worry about it. Or your other option is you can trim it after the stabilizer's been washed off. And even if it had one layer of netting in there, you really likely wouldn't notice it too much. So I guess I'm going to leave it up to you guys. It is a lot of work. There's only 6 of them though. So I don't know. I guess there's a good side to look at it. It's only 6, ladies. But do what you think you're capable of doing without cutting the stabilizer, because you need that stabilizer there to do the finishing stitch. I'm going to give it a try, but if I don't get the second layer of tulle, I'm not going to worry about it. The other thing that's good, and again, this goes with my trick with using a torch or a lighter, is tulle or netting, however you want to call it, is also polyester, unless it's truly bridal tulle, and then sometimes it's silk and sometimes it's cotton, which means that a little tiny flick of a lighter is gonna make it all like shrivel up. You won't see it. So if you do see it, you can hit it with a flame and it'll disappear. Just don't set the project on fire. It's not a let's light it up and take a drag. It's more like just boop, done. Yeah, you just want to get it the torch on and keep it moving. But I tend to use that for everything, like puffy foam, shrinking down puffy foam, getting excess jump stitches, cleaning up the back of a patch, all kinds of stuff like that. Because the polyester thread melts and shrivels really quickly with just the least amount of heat. My guess is a really hot blow dryer would probably do it too.
I envision my whole project going up in smoke. All my little X's and O's.
There's always going to be that risk, Irene. Yep, Smokey the Bear does not live at my house, so I'm always really careful.
And I'm retired from Smokey the Bear, so
I know
I'm
you
gonna
are.
go there.
You're like, no, I don't think I'm going to use that tip. Because I can envision all the things that could possibly go wrong. Have a fire extinguisher handy, yeah. So I literally like to cook and bake and that kind of stuff. And I keep telling my husband, who used to be a chef at one point, he's had quite a career, first in the restaurant business and then in in the medical career. But I keep telling him, I want to do creme brulee at home. And he's like, yeah, no. I'm like, why? He's like, because I'm not giving you fire in the kitchen. So
you're not going to get your own little butane thing for Christmas or anything.
I am not. I'm gonna have to pick a less risky dessert, I guess. Besides, I don't want to make my own creme brulee. It's my favorite dessert, so I want to eat it out, right? Isn't that the way you do
That's when
the
you can
ones?
enjoy it.
Exactly. Well, you know why? Because there's only one serving and I'm not left there with the rest of them to eat them.
Well, there's that too. Well, and usually Mylar, you can just tear it away from the stitches and
Yep, you're right. You can, but it's got tulle on top of it to hold it down. So that makes it hard to get to the Mylar.
yeah.
But for this, you almost need it because I kind of, thought about it as I was doing the project. I'm like, would you really need that much? And you really kind of do because it's not really true freestanding lace. There's not there's not enough stitching there to ensure that it wouldn't fall apart when you washed it, when you rinse the stabilizer out.
Mm-hmm.
So it really does need the support of the tulle, but I'm just wondering if we couldn't have just done two underneath and not put one on the top, because then we could actually tear the mylar away. The mylar does make it pretty. I mean, it does kind of make it really sparkly in the light.
Huh? I'm not even thinking about that. I'm like just trying to get through the closure. Oh my god, I can't believe that doll. Oh, maybe I have more important to do. Dude, so there's one in the show. Oh, this is weird.
All right. I done it as good as I'm gonna done it. I think I got it, but I don't know for sure.
I'll be right back, okay? Okay, so Mary Ann, you said. Yep. 537, okay, I'm gonna hand it over to you and I'll finish some pictures. Okay? I'm making thank you.
You almost need a piece of tape nearby so that you can stick all the pieces to the piece of tape as they come out. I've got a bunch of them stuck to the front of my shirt.
You need to grab everything that's completed or should I just put this order and I put it out? I will.
Yeah, I can still feel it. Where is it? This is a booger because you can't see it, but you can sure feel it when you missed it. All right. I made it this far. Let me dump all this stuff in the trash. All right. So this is what you should look like at this point, and we're going to go back to the machine. We're going to change the thread to the pink. We're going to stitch the O's and the X's and the O's for the satin stitch around the outside. And then from the back, we will trim the jump stitches. And from the front, we're going to remove the project from the stabilizer and trim them up. So let's get this last stitching done and let's move over. All right. Need my pink thread. All right, I'm just now seeing the chat box. So Dolores, if you accidentally cut the stabilizer, don't put tape there because you're just gonna stitch on the tape. You can just float another piece or a small piece of stabilizer. If you like, this is the water soluble, so I would like cut the corner off here and then just put that corner underneath where you cut it. And not, if you have another piece of stabilizer, and you don't have to use like a piece that's off of the hoop, you can do it that way too. Just don't tape it, because if you tape it, you're going to end up stitching over the tape. So it sure takes a long time for a 26-minute stitch out, right? All the little steps. It's like your machine's trying to trick you. Like, oh, this is only going to take 26 minutes to stitch out. Nope. All right, go ahead and continue with the O's. It is a really cute design. All right, so when we get done with this, the last one here, I'm not gonna trim these right now. I'm just gonna unhoop it and I'm gonna continue with the cinch sack because I have a stitch out on the cinch sack that has the tic-tac-toe and the boxes. And while that's stitching, I can be trimming these guys out. So after I get done, I'm just gonna set them aside and continue on to the placement and positioning my cinch sack. I like to have everything pressed. So I'm gonna actually warm up my iron right now so I can just kind of press any, these little cinch sacks aren't too bad because they're small, but I just don't like to have a whole lot of wrinkles in anything. I like to start with something that's freshly pressed, so. But they are pretty cute. And hey, I'm not gonna say anything yet, quite yet, because I still could be playing bobbin chicken, but it looks like I made it. So I have like 2 bobbins now that are almost empty that I can get rid of. The orange one didn't sew enough, I guess. I still have orange thread on it. Look at that. It made it. No bobbin chicken for me. All right, at least not today. All right. So I'm going to take this over to the table and I'm also going to set up, we're going to do a couple of steps over there. So I'm also going to get ready for the next stitch out. And I will trim these when that's stitching out. So for right now, I'm just going to take this out of the hoop. And then, let's see, I have a couple of, it's not too bad with this.
Okay, just thought I'd ask. Okay. Always looking for this. All right. Yeah, it is kind of a pain to trim them out. I agree. This is why I torch them. No. Yeah, I'm very careful. I haven't set anything on fire yet, but sometimes if there's a lot of jump stitches, I'm all down with the lighter. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and hoop my sticky tearaway. You've not used this before. The paper piece goes on the top because that's protecting the sticky part. All right, I'm just going to use the tip of my seam ripper to make those slashes in, so scoring lines. And I'm going to set this aside for now. I'm going to, my iron's finally hot, so I'm going to give my cinch sack a little press. I'll set this aside. If you're still following along, we are at the top of page 7. We're going to be loading the centering crosshairs. So, you know what? I'll go ahead and do that because I can press my cinch sack while that is, there's not a lot to press, okay? But, you know, little things like that folded over corner, I like to have everything just smooth. And I'm not going to press this out because that's actually a good folding line for me for the next part of it. So let's get this on the machine and it's going to sew the crosshairs. Doesn't matter what color. So I'm going to just leave in whatever color's there, which in this case is pink.
I think you'll be able to see that. So I'm just gonna leave the pink on. I'm gonna delete this design. And I'm gonna go get the crosshair design. Oops, don't want that one. Right, I'm just gonna touch go and let that stitch out. And while that's stitching, I'm just gonna give my cinch sack a little press. So I've got pretty good size X there and the marks the spots. So I'm gonna set this over on the table. I'm gonna get rid of this one and bring up the next design. That way I'll be ready to rock and roll. Right. Okay. So let's see how we're gonna get this cinch sack in there. I always love, truly, I do always love the way Kimberbell makes it easy for you to get things in the hoop straight. So let's see what they've got. Lay the cinch sack flat, wrong side up with the drawstring casing at the top. Check. Using a water soluble or heat sensitive pen and a ruler, draw a line 1/4 inch away from the right edge as shown. Be sure the line is 90 degrees perpendicular from the top. So 1/4 inch, essentially what they're having us do over here on this right edge is our seam allowance. All right. All right. Got the seam allowance drawn right there, 1/4 inch. Okay, so flip the cinch sack right side up with the casing at the top and fold the cinch sack in half to the left. The drawstrings will be on the left. Check. Finger press the center fold. That's already checked because it came pressed in the bag. Be sure the top edges are evenly aligned. Fold the left edge over and align the mark line with the pins. Let's see. Oh, I'm going to put a pin in the center. All right, well, I can do that. Or I can mark the center. Whatever works for you. All right, so here's my center. Here's a pin. And here's my center. Pin. All right. Pin top and bottom. Drawstring on the left. And then unfold the cinch sack right side up, fold the left edge over and align the marked line with the pins. The left edge will overlap by 1/4 inch. This is fold A, finger press along fold A. So essentially we want to find the center, but we don't want to include the seam allowance. So I'm folding this over so that the seam allowance extends past my fold line. All right, so there's one. I'm just gonna, and then I'm gonna come over here. Here's my fold line. There's where my pin is. I'm putting my seam allowance over that because that doesn't count. It's gonna get stitched up. All right. So this, I'm gonna finger press this. This is fold A. All right. Unfold the cinch sack right side up and fold the left edge over. Be sure the top, yes, we did that. Keep folding A aligned, fold the bottom edge of the cinch sack upward to align the bottom of the drawstring casing. This is fold line B. Okay, so the bottom edge is going to align with the drawstring casing. So we've got one fold line, which is this. This one is minus that 1/4 inch seam allowance. This folding up is going to align with the casing, which is also, you know, taking away the 1/4 inch there. All right. I'm gonna, let's see. This is A. And then this is B. So this is my hoop. This is my A fold line. My A fold line goes along this line. This is my B fold line. My B fold line goes along the bottom one. So I'm just aligning the edges of my A fold line and my B fold line. My finger pressed edge lines up on that both places, and there's my fold line for that one, even with the casing, and that one lines up on both of those edges. So here's my fold line A when I fold it across. So we want to find the center of the embroiderable area, not the center of the bag itself. Okay, the cinch part, not the embroidery area. The embroidery area is the center of the little bag. So I have my line here, which is, this is my center. My line that I drew, my 1/4 inch seam allowance, overlaps my center because that's negative. It's going to be gone when I stitch the bag together. And then my B line is taking the bottom up and bringing it up to the cinch part, because that right there is also a 1/4 of an inch. So at least I have my 1/4 inch for my seam around the bottom of the bag. All right. So I'm going to take it over to my hoop. Here's my A. So I'm going to align my A and my B. So here's my fold for my B. I'm going to align my A along the A fold line while keeping my B on the B fold line. There's my B fold line aligned with the horizontal line. So this is what you should look like. The excess of the bag is off to the right. And I'm going to roll that up and clip it or pin it, whatever works. You should have your bag right side up. That means that this side is not the right side. That should be underneath. Bottom of the bag to the right below the rope. So I'm not sure I understand how you're asking, Lynn. Here is the rope at the top of my hoop, because this is what cinches the bag. All right. Our measurable embroiderable area is here. We're not even counting this because that's not the embroidery area. This is the embroidery area. So our first fold was to the right. This is our A fold. This was 1/4 of an inch over the center fold line to eliminate when we sew it together. All right. And then once we did that, to find the center, we're not counting this at all. We're just taking the bottom up to align it with the hem of the drawstring there. And that's our B line. So here's my A along the line there. Here's my B. If I fold it up like this, that's going to show you where my fold line was. Here's the cinch area. I'm folding this up to the cinch area. There's my B fold line. When I open it up, this is what your hoop should look like. All right, here's my center right here. The excess of the bag is over to the right. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to roll this out of the way so I don't run over it. And so I want to just keep the cinch part out of the sewing area. So I'm just going to use a couple of clips for that. This one I'll be able to see. The other one, it can get snagged underneath pretty easy. So I'm just going to grab a couple clips. So this will just kind of keep this out of the way for me. All right. So this actually has a pretty good, so here's my fold line A, and then the bottom edge of the cinch sack is upward to align with the bottom of the drawstring casing. So this is the bottom of the drawstring casing. All right. All right, so if you are in your, if you've got your little bag in the hoop, then we're gonna go ahead and start sewing this little tic-tac-toe thing. The first part of it is going to be done with peach thread. The last is going to be done with the pink thread. And let's see. Yeah, let's go. So here's my peach thread. Oh, it's kind of not peachy enough. Let's see if I have something that looks a little bit better than that. Let's do orange. Well, so mine's not really peach. So I think what I'm going to do, it's kind of a beige. It's not peach on this. I'm going to go ahead and use orange and pink on mine. So if you have peach, and what did I say? So the colors, I should have told you this before, I guess. When Jeannie had her glide thread in here, it was peach, pink lemonade, and graphite. But I don't have anything down for the orange color. All right, I'm doing orange and pink. So I'm going to go ahead and take my pink bobbin out. And I can just now switch back to a regular embroidery bobbin. This is only, it says it's an 8-minute stitch out. So I'm going to use that 8 minutes. Of course, it'll be more than that because I have to change thread. I'm going to use that 8 minutes to clean up my my tic-tac-toe pieces. All right, so get that on there. Make sure that you have your drawstrings out of the way. All right, here we go. I'm gonna swing the camera over and we're gonna trim. All right, so the first thing I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna cut away all of this excess stabilizer because I don't want to drag it around when I'm trying to trim. Ooh, it's sparkly. All right, so I'm gonna just approach everything one row at a time. So it says to leave 1/8 of an inch. That's for your own protection so that you don't cut through the satin stitching. I'm gonna go almost right up to the edge. With a curved blade, you can use this do this right to the edge pretty easily. And then you have like minimal stuff left over. And then what is left, I will just wet the edges of my sponge with hot water and just go along the edges. It's like one of the easiest, fastest ways to clean off water soluble stabilizer. So you can't see it, it's still there. So, I mean, at some point I would probably want to clear it off, but if it's, if it's something I want to give as a gift or something like that, then I probably will leave it in for the stability. Wonder if I could just use these. So that allowed me to actually trim pretty close. I've got a couple of rough edges in there, but again, if I just wet my sponge, I can just go around the center quite easily. All right, there's one row done. Oh, I hear the machine. Let's see what it needs. Probably a different color thread, you think? Oh, look at that. So nice. Yeah, I'm glad I did the orange and not that. We don't really have a peachy thread back here. All right, I found one here that still has some of the netting in it. So I'm just going slower. I was just going to say, oh, I made it the whole way, but no, I did not. All right, so now that I have it trimmed out, it doesn't look any different than just having stabilizer there. So, you know, I can't really tell at this point if it what's stabilizer and what's netting. But again, you could try a hot blow dryer and see if it'll melt up that netting enough to move it out of the way. It might. Y'all know what I'm gonna do and not set anything on fire. Nope, I got a little ways to go yet. Oh, I see another. I got another piece here. Uh-oh. I thought I was gonna win, but the machine just won. It finished before I did. All right, pretty close though. All right. All right, let me go grab it off the machine. Look at that. How cute is that? How fun. All right. Here's the bottom of the drawstring. Here's the bottom of the bag minus a 1/4 inch seam allowance and equal on each side here. So we are in good shape. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and take this off of the
Oh, I'm getting ready to. My voice up, I'm gonna take it. I'm getting ready to put 25.
Michelle, was this sticky back tearaway?
yes.
Okay. Because I'm
All
gonna
right.
embroider. I'm gonna embroider my grandson's names on the back.
Oh, how fun. All right. You know you got the bag folded in the correct direction if you look here, or the correct orientation. If you look here and your X is, I was off by just a little bit, but my X is right smack down the middle. And you want to go ahead and pull off as much as you can. All right. Okay, so we are going into the finishing part of the bag. So I've got all my stabilizer off. I've got even the X, actually the placement line is off. All right, so we're gonna, this is where we go to the sewing portion of the bag. So what we want to make sure is that we do not sew the strings into the bag, because it won't close very well if you do that. So what we want to do is make sure that your drawstrings are inside the bag. And if you want to tape them into place, that's fine. And then we want to line up our edges exactly. And again, make sure that they're pushed out of the way. You have plenty of room here for a 1/4 inch seam allowance without catching your strings. And I guess I'll do pins down here. Just make sure all of your edges are even. And make sure that you backstitch at the beginning and at the end. So I'm just going to go ahead and use some off-white embroidery thread. Here's how I choose if I'm going to actually change to sewing thread. So if it's something that's going to see a lot of use, like a quilt per se, then yeah, if I have to piece, I'm going to do it with sewing thread. If I'm doing something, polyester thread is pretty strong. Embroidery thread is pretty strong. You can sew with embroidery thread to an extent. All right. If you're going to sit down after lunch, don't sew that seam with embroidery thread because that is not going to hold. But for the most part, for something like this, it would hold. All right. So let me grab. First of all, I'm going to exit embroidery here. And go to the sewing So it'll move the arm out of my way so I can get my hand in there. That's the only thing I still struggle with. I mean, machines have gotten so big, but apparently my hands are pretty good size. It's hard for me to change the foot if the embroidery arm is close. So let me grab the magic tool. Well, it made an exit. Let me grab anything that's gonna work. The foot. Yep. All right, double check to make sure that all of your drawstrings, both your drawstrings are out of your sewing area. And your machine's going to help you if you let it. You have a built-in stitch if you're on a brother or baby lock machine. In your utility section, doesn't matter which model, it goes all the way down the line. That I'm just in the straight utility. It looks like this. It says a P and it's 1-30. So what is that? When I select that stitch allows me to sew with the edge of my J foot being the guide for a perfect 1/4 inch seam. Let's go delete and go back to the and reset. All right. So if you want to look at your machine, your needle should be in needle position 5.50. That's 4 needle stops to the right. That will move your needle into the perfect 1/4 inch position. But if you also have, like I said, you have a setting for it. P1-30 over here. If you're in the Q section, it is usually Q-02. So it's in the same in both. It is the same stitch. I usually use it in here because I'm sometimes doing something else. So this prevents me from having to bounce back and forth. Okay. So what that does is it puts your needle in that 1/4 inch position. So then you're just using the edge of your foot to be your guide. So I'm just going to start over here, put the foot down. I just need to keep my fabric even. Do I have a foot control plugged in? I don't think I do. I'll just do the start stop. Come on. I came unthreaded, you guys. Do you know why? Because sewing machines really don't like sewing on air. I thought I was closer to the edge. Oops. And see that set to cut. I didn't want to do that. Let's try it again. There we go. All right, you're coming up to the top here. This is your last time to check. Look inside, make sure you can see both of those drawstrings and you're not going to sew it shut. You can feel right here where the hole is that your drawstring's coming out of this. It's all vacant space over there. You stay at 1/4 inch, you're good. When you get to the very end, go ahead and back stitch or tie off like I just did. But you know what? I probably do want to tie off. I'm going to go back down the other way just so. All right, I'm going to give it a little press and then we're going to turn it right side out. Want it to get, oh, here's the screwdriver I can find. All right, so on a 1/4 inch seam, this is just a little trick. If you really want a pointy corner, go ahead and press those corners because you wouldn't want to clip this corner on a 1/4 inch seam because it's going to be leaving that corner too vulnerable. But what you can do is grab the point and pull it up so that you have equal amount and give that little corner a press. I'll do the other side as well. It'll make a difference and you won't have to poke so hard with the pokey thing when you go to turn it right side out. Corners can be the demise. So I'm going to just do the same thing with the other side. So I have my corner actually pressed open so that when I turn this, I should be able to get a nice sharp point over here. But when you only have a 1/4 inch seam, I'm always really reluctant to trim corners. They're not asking you to trim a corner, but sometimes they do. And I'm like, you have a 1/4 inch, that's kind of risky. All right. When you turn, watch this. I'm gonna put both my hands in here. When I get to the corner, I'm going to put my thumb in that corner. My thumb is underneath there, my thumbnail. I'm going to put my forefinger on the point that I pressed open and push it out. Look at that, pointy, pointy corner, no poking. Now, if you do want to run something in there, my favorite is the point and press, the OESD point and press. I think we have one back here. I'm sure we do. Or I like something that is almost guaranteed not to poke a hole in your bag. If you use anything pointy, you're going to risk poking a hole in it. All right, so with the point and press, you have a small ball tip and a large ball tip. So it doesn't really allow, unless you push really hard, it doesn't really allow you to poke a hole in it. But what you're going to do is not just instantly jab for the hole. Take the point and press and follow down the seam line. Because that way, when you make yourself, when you get down to that point, you're actually working the seam line. You're not jabbing at it. And you can work it from both sides. So then I can take the point and press and come over to this side and work that fabric into the corner. So I'm not jabbing. I'm just moving the point and press along the bottom edge and making that. I already pressed it. It's going to get as flat as you can get with fabric in there. And then I have a nice turn. And the same over here. I can just, so the idea is not to jab something into the corner. The idea is to work along the seam line so that all of the fabric along that seam line is all pressed down. So the more that's done correctly, the more the other one falls into place. The other thing you can use is something like this, which is also like a point turner smoother for like curves and stuff. But be careful with this. The harder you push to push that corner out, the more likely you are to push this tool through it. Meaning you'll have a hole there. All right. What we got a bag here. We got our tic-tac-toe pieces we're gonna toss in there. And then we have a drawstring we're gonna close the sack up with. And how fun is that? Fun project for today, huh, ladies?
That's super cute, Michelle.
It is super cute, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
So now you're gonna put each of your grandson's name. Are you gonna make them each a bag, or are you gonna make
Yeah.
just one?
I'm making them each a bag. They are going on an airplane trip starting tomorrow. So I thought, oh, I'll just make this for each of them and
Yes, that'll be
Put some
fun on the
goodies.
airplane.
yeah, put some
It's
goodies in
also-
there.
It's also something to keep them occupied that does not require their parents to pay for an internet connection on the airplane.
Exactly. So thank you. It was cute, super cute.
Thanks. Thank you all so much. This one will get uploaded. Well, you'll get as soon as I get it downloaded and onto YouTube, I will send you guys a link for the class today. Thanks so much for joining me.
Thank you, Michelle.
You're welcome.
Have a
Always
great
fun.
weekend.
You
Thank
too.
you, Michelle.
Thank
Even
you.
though I
Thank
was
you.
late,
Even though you what?
even though I was late to get here.
Oh, that's all right. I don't watch the tardies. Nobody saw.
Okay. All right. Thank
We're here
you.
to have fun. All right,
All right.
ladies. Another
Bye-bye.
time. Bye now.
Bye-bye.